All right, let's dive straight into it. Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're attempting something pretty incredibly ambitious. We're going to completely demystify the traditional MBA. We are stripping away all the academic jargon, all the fluff, to give you a fast-paced, totally BS-free crash course on how business strategy actually works in the real world. By the end of this, you're going to understand the foundational pillars that drive literally every successful company out there.
But to start, we kind of have to look at this cynical but honestly entirely true observation about human nature. At our core, human beings are basically just constantly moving objects across time and space in exchange for colorful rectangles we call money. We just hope these colorful rectangles eventually turn into food, comfort, or, something that helps us forget what we spent the rectangles on last week.
And that actually transitions beautifully into what a business actually is. It's a value-creating, rectangle-collecting machine. The entire goal is to sell people things they didn't even know they needed by convincing them they've always needed them. Because think about it, without a strategy to do this, if you just opened a business in 30 seconds, it would literally just consist of asking strangers for money, and if they say no, just yelling, crying, or praying until someone finally says yes. To avoid that absolute nightmare, we need a plan. So here is our quick syllabus for today. We're going to cover marketing, accounting, finance, decision-making, and finally, your career capital. Section 1. Marketing. Mind-reading the consumer. Look, managing a business is really just strategic juggling with very real consequences, mostly because there is never enough time, cash, or attention to go around. So, day one of any MBA starts with truly knowing the customer, and you absolutely must distinguish between the buyer and the user. If you're selling a children's product and you aim your advertising at the toddler who is, happily eating glue in the corner instead of the parent actually holding the wallet, your product will die. You have to understand who actually has the colorful rectangles to give you. Once you figure out who that buyer is, you basically put them through this 5-step emotional roller coaster. It goes from awareness to search to evaluation down to the actual purchase. But look closely at step 5. Buyer's remorse. That post-purchase feeling where you spend 3 days just cursing yourself for buying it. This right here brilliantly illustrates why marketers absolutely love low-involvement impulse purchases. Think about a pack of gum at the register. They want to avoid that deep evaluation phase entirely, which turns cheap items into massive margins without making the buyer cry. Now to navigate that buying process, we use the famous 4 Ps. Product isn't just the physical item, it's the magical brand equity attached to it. Place and promotion are how you basically seduce the customer, but the absolute crucial point here is price. Price is a really delicate dance between cost-based markups and value-based charging. And always remember this, if your price is less than your cost, you are running a charity, not a business. Section 2. Accounting, the financial truth. So, accounting is playfully known as the ancient art of telling the financial truth using only lies allowed by law. In this world, the universe revolves around what we call the Holy Trinity: the balance sheet, the income statement, and the cash flow statement. The best way to think about these 3 documents? Imagine 3 highly unreliable narrators all looking at the exact same car accident. They're all telling a true story, sure, but from wildly different perspectives. Most businesses use accrual accounting, which records revenue when it's earned, not when the cash actually hits your hand. Because of this, profit is basically a social construct. Accrual accounting can make your income statement say you're incredibly rich, while your actual bank account says you're completely broke. And make no mistake, companies die from cash shortages, not bad vibes. Cash flow tracks the real, tangible money. And because cash is so critical, you have to relentlessly monitor this one metric: working capital. It's simply your current assets minus your current liabilities. This is literally the financial oxygen that keeps a business breathing day to day. Run out of working capital and game over. Section 3, Finance, time traveling with money. If accounting is looking at the past and present, well, finance is where math pretends to predict the future. This is the discipline where money literally travels through time. And the single most important concept here is the time value of money. $1 in your hand today is fundamentally worth more than $1 given to you tomorrow. Why? Well, because of earning potential. You could invest that dollar today. Plus, inflation will slowly eat away its purchasing power by tomorrow anyway. So, to figure out if an investment is just a terrible idea, you calculate the net present value, or NPV. You use a discount rate to turn all that imaginary future cash into today's cash, and then subtract your initial investment. The rule is dead simple. If the NPV is positive, it's a good investment. If it's negative, run away, fast.
But what discount rate do you actually use to test that investment?
You use WACC. That's the weighted average cost of capital. This blends the cost of your company's equity and its debt. In plain English, WACC tells you the bare minimum return a project must earn so that you don't embarrass the company and lose everyone's money.
Section 4. Decision-making, the art of the how.
Okay, so we've covered the what of business. Now let's pivot to the how. Top business schools use the case study method and the dreaded cold call, where a professor just picks you at random to act as a CEO in a crisis to teach executives how to make decisions under extreme uncertainty. Making better decisions starts with accepting your own ignorance and learning to negotiate effectively. Which brings us to BATNA, your best alternative to a negotiated agreement. It's your walkaway plan. In business, you have to operate in ranges instead of single stubborn numbers. And knowing your BATNA gives you the power to just walk away when the numbers don't make sense. And when you're actually in a negotiation, you have to understand the difference between a position and an interest. A position is someone digging in their heels saying, I will not sell my company for less than $1 billion. But their underlying interest, that might simply be, I want the status of being called a tech unicorn. By understanding that hidden psychological interest, rather than just arguing over the stubborn position of price, you can unlock super creative win-win deals. Section 5, Career Capital, Building Your Business Foundation.
Now, all of these high-level frameworks, they're totally useless if you can't apply them to yourself and your own business trajectory. Success requires building a portfolio across 3 critical areas. First up, intellectual capital, what you know. Second, social capital, who you know. And interestingly, this isn't just your close friends, it's your weak ties, people outside your immediate circle who can give you fresh information. And finally, brand capital. This is your reputation. It's exactly what people are saying about you when you aren't in the room.
When you use that career capital to evaluate a new venture, you want to run it through the POCD framework. People, opportunity, context, and deal. Always, always look at the people first. You would infinitely rather have exceptional people working on a mediocre idea than mediocre people ruining a brilliant idea. Because at the end of the day, people are the true foundation of execution. As you grow into leadership roles, you'll need the 3-box approach. Box 1 is managing the present, keeping the current cash machine running. Box 3 is creating the future 10 years out. But here is the secret. To get to Box 3, you absolutely must master Box 2, which is forgetting the past. Think of a high jumper who historically jumped facing forward. To clear a much higher bar, they had to completely unlearn their old habit and start jumping backward over the bar. You literally have to challenge the assumptions that got you here if you want to move forward. So, why does all this matter? Just look at this massive number. If you just put your head down and work hard, your career might grow at a standard 12%. But if you invest in your brand capital, if you make sure the big boss actually knows you exist, you get the 30% career corrections. Thanks to the power of compounding, just a few well-timed jumps at 30% will lead to massive, life-changing wealth differences over a 20-year career. Which brings us to our final takeaway, and this deeply provocative question from our source material. What is the delta between the person you were and the person you will become? Business is highly competitive, for sure. But if you understand these foundations, if you avoid the mindless toilet flush of just memorizing textbook facts and actually build your capital, there are always world-changing opportunities waiting for you. So keep figuring it out, use these frameworks, and go build something that lasts.